Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian. I am here today at the Rock Island Auction House, and I'm taking a look at some of the guns that are coming up for sale in their February of 2016 regional auction. And yesterday we talked about the pair of Whitney Kennedy rifles or two of the several Whitney Kennedy rifles they have here. Today I thought we would take a look at the very last rifle produced by Whitneyville Armory. So if you didn't watch yesterday, a little bit of background. Eli Whitney is a name you're probably familiar with from high school or elementary school, perhaps. Eli Whitney was this cool American inventor who, among other things, developed what was called the cotton gin, a mechanical engine that would separate cotton seed from cotton fiber and really revolutionized the cotton industry and saved an immense amount of manpower. Well, in an effort to get himself out of financial trouble that was brought on by attempting to defend his patent on the cotton gin, Whitney ended up in the arms making business. He was a forerunner of interchangeable parts as part of the industrial process. Very successful businessman, and his Whitneyville Armory would go on to be managed by his son, Eli Whitney Jr., and was in business for virtually 100 years. Well, Eli Whitney was the sort of guy who ran a factory to produce anything he saw as being worthy. So if you had a firearms idea, you could take it to Eli Whitney Jr. and go into business together, and he'd produce your gun, and the two of you could split the profits. Potentially a very good idea. There are a lot of different guns produced by Whitney using this kind of method. Anyway, the very last one was this, the Whitney Scharf. Now, the Whitney Kennedys were actually selling reasonably well. They sold 24,000 of them in total. But Whitney was looking for a way to make a more cost-effective, a better rifle that would do better. And so he turned to William Scharf, who had a patent for a totally different mechanism to operate a lever-action rifle. We'll take a look at it up close in a moment, but suffice to say, a departure from the internal structure of the Whitney Kennedy and the Whitney Burgess. Unfortunately for Scharf, and also for Whitney, this was about the time when Eli Whitney Jr. was starting to get old. He was starting to consider retirement, and in 1888, the Winchester Company bought out all of Whitneyville Armory. This was something that Winchester had done before. Winchester bought out the Burgess Gun Company and promptly shut it down. Winchester bought out Whitneyville and promptly shut it down. They were not buying the company to acquire its goods. They were buying the company to remove its goods from the market. Winchester just wanted to eliminate competition from the marketplace so that its own lever-action rifles, which admittedly were fantastic guns, many of Winchester's designs were actually the brainchildren of John Browning. In 1886, John Browning gave them a lever-action rifle design that would be one of the better ones of all time, specifically for large, powerful cartridges, as opposed to the pistol caliber guns that they had been doing up to that point. At any rate, this kind of burned William Scharf. His gun was in production for barely 2 years. Fewer than 2,000 of these were made in total. They were done in 3 different calibers. This particular one is in 38 caliber, which would be 38 WCF, or 38 Winchester centerfire, also known today as 3840. They were also made in 44 caliber and 32 caliber. So a wide variety. They were legitimately good guns. There's really not that much wrong with them, just kind of the wrong time, the wrong place. A small number got made, and then Winchester shut the whole company down. So let's take a closer look at this. I'll show you how this works. It's not something I can take apart, but we can show you from the outside what's going on. All right, so the first thing you notice looking at this is that it has a very traditional looking finger loop. Looks very much like the Winchester rifles. This had gone into use on Whitney guns with the Whitney Kennedys in about 1883, and they continued to use it on the Whitney Scharf rifles. Now, one of the other changes from the Kennedy was the loading gate here. On the Kennedy, the loading gate pivoted inward, and on the Scharf here, it is a sliding plate that moves forward. This was, I'm sure, a little bit cheaper and easier to make, and it worked well with Scharf's lifter design. However, one of the side effects is that you will often find the forends cracked on these rifles, because in order to provide space for that sliding dust cover to go into, the forend is a little bit thin right here. So this one doesn't appear, it's got a little bit of a crack there, but not too bad. you will sometimes find that much worse on these guns. Now, mechanically, if you'll recall, the Whitney Kennedy had this long L-shaped bar that pivoted up into place and locked against the receiver. The Scharf is quite a bit different. On the Scharf design, we have this separate tilting locking block built into the bolt. And as the bolt goes forward, let's see, I believe, yeah, you can see it move just a little bit there. Well, when the bolt goes all the way into battery, that lower bar drops and locks against a solid block in the receiver right in here. So that is how this particular design locks up. So one of the advantages of this different system is that it has a shorter lever throw than the Whitney Kennedys, because the lever isn't working quite the same way internally. It doesn't need to go quite as far forward. So that makes the gun a little bit smoother and faster to operate. This one has a little bit of a sticky hammer there. Other than that, these look remarkably like Winchester rifles. They are top ejecting. You can see the round ejection port right there. The caliber is pretty faded, but we can see it right there on the top of the rifle. 38 caliber, which would be 38 Winchester or 38-40. And then our markings, manufacturer markings. There you have Whitney Arms Company, Whitneyville, Connecticut. And I don't believe these are actually marked with any designer's name at all. The serial number is located here on the bottom tang. 1896 is the serial number, not the date. By 1896, Whitneyville was long gone. So 1896 would make this one of the very last Whitney Scharf rifles. In fact, one of the very last Whitney anything rifles. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, learned something about a cool new lever action that from the outside doesn't look that much different, but internally is definitely different and has this cool different history to it. So if you would like to own this particular one yourself, take a look in the description text below, where you will find a link to Rock Island's catalog page on it. You can see their pictures, and if you decide you just can't live without it, you can place a bid right there online through their website. Thanks for watching.